Yo, you ever notice how Wall Street goes dead quiet right before a big move? Like that eerie silence before a thunderstorm hits? Yeah, that silence is happening right now with Filecoin. And I'm telling you, bro, it's giving before the storm vibes. See, the thing about these institutions, they don't scream when they buy. They move in silence. They accumulate when everyone else is distracted. And that's exactly what's been happening behind the scenes with Filecoin over the past few weeks. You won't see it on CNBC. You won't hear about it from the influencers who only talk after the pump. But when you start tracing the on-chain data, the wallets, and those quiet OTC transfers, it's clear. The suits are stacking FIL. Now, let's be real. Wall Street doesn't chase hype. They create it. So when I see wallets that usually touch Ethereum, Solana, Avalanche suddenly showing interest in Filecoin, that tells me one thing. Something big is coming. Something they know before we do. You remember the weeks before the Ethereum ETF got approved? Total silence. No hype, no buzz, just quiet institutional positioning. And then, boom, billions poured in overnight. That's the same pattern we're seeing now. Filecoin's liquidity is drying up on exchanges while off-exchange movements are ramping up. It's the calm before the storm moment that retail always misses, until it's too late. And here's what's wild. This time, it's not just about crypto speculation. It's about AI. Yeah, you heard that right. Filecoin isn't just another storage coin anymore. It's becoming the backbone of decentralized AI data infrastructure. While the world's obsessed with ChatGPT and OpenAI, Filecoin's building the plumbing, the invisible pipes that every AI model needs to survive. We're talking massive data storage, decentralized compute layers, and verified data integrity, stuff that centralized servers can't fully guarantee. So ask yourself, if AI is the new gold rush, who's selling the shovels? Filecoin, that's who. Now, here's where it gets even crazier. When you dive into some of the recent on-chain activity, you'll notice certain whale wallets that have been completely inactive for over a year suddenly waking up. They're not dumping. They're buying. Quietly. Strategically. It's like watching a chess grandmaster move his pieces before the checkmate. No flash, no noise, just precision. And it's not just whales. Private venture desks in Silicon Valley are starting to mention Filecoin in their AI infrastructure portfolios. A few early-stage funds that were deep in projects are now adding FIL exposure. Coincidence? Nah. This is the pattern every time. First silence, then accumulation, then narrative ignition. But the question is, why now? Well, part of it is regulatory timing. The SEC's been playing hardball with tokens that have no real-world use case. Filecoin, it does have one. Real data storage, real clients, real infrastructure. And there's this quiet rumor floating around that certain data compliance discussions between Web3 and AI projects include Filecoin nodes as potential decentralized verification layers. Translation, Filecoin might become the AWS of decentralized AI. That's not hype. That's an entirely new use case, one that institutional players love because it connects directly to the next trillion-dollar wave, AI. So, while the retail crowd is busy looking at meme coins or the next low-cap gamble, the big boys are loading the real asset, the one that ties AI, data, and blockchain into one ecosystem. And here's the FOMO part nobody's ready for. Filecoin's tokenomics are quietly tightening. Supply is dropping due to increased storage locking, and active network utilization is rising. That's literally the perfect setup before an explosion. We saw the same structure before Solana went from $3 to $250, before Chainlink became every developer's go-to oracle. This is that early-stage silence, the part of the movie where nobody's watching. But hey, here's the thing. This story doesn't end here. Because what if I told you the same whales that are buying Filecoin aren't just holding, they're building? Yeah, you heard that right. In the next section, we're diving into what these institutions are secretly developing on top of Filecoin, and how that connects directly to AI infrastructure projects that could reshape the entire Web3 landscape. But before we go there, think about this. Every time Wall Street goes quiet, retail gets bored, and then, out of nowhere, the headlines drop. Institutional adoption surges, AI beta protocol explodes, FIL rallies 400% overnight. By that point, it's too late to get in cheap. Right now, it's not about guessing the top, it's about recognizing the silence before the noise. And that silence is deafening. Next, we're breaking down exactly what's being built on Filecoin and why these early moves could make 2025 the year Filecoin becomes the backbone of decentralized AI. Trust me, once you see what's coming, you'll understand why Wall Street doesn't want you to see it. Yet. Listen up. Every AI company right now is starving for one thing: data. Clean, secure, scalable data. And guess who's quietly feeding them in 2025? Yup, Filecoin. This ain't just storage anymore. It's the AI engine room, the digital bloodstream that's powering the entire next wave of machine intelligence. And most people still have no clue what's happening. See, the world's obsessed with AI models, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, all those big names. But here's the truth Wall Street doesn't say out loud. None of that AI magic works without one thing: massive, high-quality data pipelines. You can't train an AI brain without food, and that food is data. And right now, the data infrastructure world is getting flipped on its head because Filecoin's about to become the go-to kitchen for feeding these AIs. Now here's the wild part. Filecoin isn't just storing data anymore. They're building something much bigger: compute over data. That means instead of moving terabytes around the world every time an AI model needs something, you bring the compute to where the data already lives. It's faster, cheaper, and honestly, genius. It's the exact opposite of what big tech does. AWS, Google Cloud, Azure, they drag your data all over centralized servers. It's slow, expensive, and full of trust issues. But Filecoin's network? It's decentralized, peer-powered, and open. AI developers can plug in directly, run computations on the data without ever moving it, and verify every single operation on-chain. Think about that. Decentralized storage plus compute equals unstoppable AI infrastructure. And here's what's crazy. This isn't theory anymore. It's already happening. You've got small AI startups, depend projects, even enterprise-level players starting to build on top of Filecoin. Some of them are using it for decentralized training data. Others are running massive compute clusters directly on Filecoin nodes. And it's not just about cost savings, it's about control. Developers don't want to depend on AWS or Google anymore. They want something trustless, global, and censorship-proof. That's what Filecoin delivers. And the timing couldn't be better, because as AI demand explodes, the world's running out of scalable, ethical, and affordable data infrastructure. Everyone's screaming about GPU shortages, but no one's talking about the data bottleneck that's coming right after it. Filecoin's already positioning itself as the solution. They're not fighting NVIDIA or OpenAI. They're supplying them the fuel. And once that narrative hits mainstream, that's when things get wild. Because right now, we're in that pre-boom silence. The builders are here. The partnerships are happening quietly. You can trace the footprints, like AI depend projects linking their datasets to Filecoin's network for verifiable storage. Some early AI protocols are even integrating FIL payments directly into their models. It's the kind of early infrastructure signal that later becomes common sense. Just like how Ethereum became the foundation for DeFi, Filecoin's becoming the foundation for decentralized AI. Now, imagine what happens when that becomes obvious. Every AI project on the planet will need scalable, permissionless storage and compute, and Filecoin will be sitting right there, ready. Here's what most retail investors don't get. AI isn't just a narrative. It's a power shift. The ones who own the data pipelines, they own the future. And Filecoin, quietly, is building those pipes in the background while everyone's chasing meme coins. You think that's an accident?
Nah, this is classic stealth accumulation, both in terms of tokens and infrastructure. Developers are already deploying, institutional partners are already sniffing around, and if you look closely at recent network upgrades, they're all pointing toward one goal: merging storage, compute, and AI access into one unstoppable platform. Bro, this is like watching early AWS in 2007 before the cloud went mainstream, except this time it's decentralized, open, and community-powered. But here's the emotional punch. This shift won't just make a few companies rich. It's about rewriting the balance of power in AI. For decades, big tech has owned your data, your privacy, your digital footprint. Filecoin's model breaks that. It puts ownership back in the hands of users, creators, and decentralized compute providers. And that's why the smartest people in crypto are whispering this could be the AWS of Web3. You can literally feel the energy building. Every time I see another AI project mention Filecoin integration, it's like a quiet domino falling. One by one, they're connecting. One by one, the ecosystem's getting stronger. And that's why 2025 could be the year Filecoin stops being that old storage coin and becomes the heart of decentralized intelligence. But here's where it gets even more interesting and honestly, a little bit dangerous. Because you know what happens when AI and decentralization mix? Regulation. And that storm is already brewing. Governments are starting to ask who owns the data if it's decentralized? Who's responsible if AI models pull from open distributed sources? The SEC is paying attention again. Some early signs suggest there's already quiet communication happening between Filecoin's legal team and policy advisors on compliance structures. And if history tells us anything, whenever regulation enters the chat, volatility follows. That's the next big twist in this story. Because depending on how that plays out, Filecoin could either be the most compliant AI data layer on the planet or the target of the next major crypto showdown. Either way, one thing's for sure, the fuse is lit. AI is hungry, the data floodgates are opening, and Filecoin's sitting right in the middle of it all. So yeah, while everyone's looking left, chasing trends that die in a week, the real builders are looking right, straight into the decentralized AI future that Filecoin's quietly wiring together. And trust me, once the world realizes what's about to happen when these systems fully connect, you'll wish you'd paid attention during the silence. Because the noise, it's coming. Next, we'll dive into the part nobody's ready for, how that noise turns into chaos once the regulators step in, and why the same moves that could scare retail out might just make institutions double down. Stay tuned. This next part is where things get real.
Bro, every time the SEC even breathes in crypto's direction, the market freaks out. Charts dump, Twitter panics, and everyone starts screaming, "It's over." But what if this time it's the complete opposite? What if the SEC poking around Filecoin actually makes it stronger, not weaker? Yeah, I know that sounds crazy, but stay with me, because what's happening behind the scenes right now could flip this whole game upside down. See, here's the truth. Filecoin's not just another token getting caught in crypto drama. It's sitting in a completely different lane. This isn't a meme coin promising community vibes. Filecoin is data infrastructure. And in 2025, that means one thing: national security. The world runs on data, and whoever controls the pipelines of that data controls the future. That's why the SEC and US regulators are starting to pay attention again. Not because they want to shut Filecoin down, but because they finally get what it's becoming. Let's rewind for a sec. Remember when the SEC first mentioned Filecoin a while back? They tossed its name around in some filings, no lawsuits, no bans, just a little eyebrow raise. Everyone freaked out for a few days. Filecoin's in trouble, they said, but nothing happened. You know why? Because Filecoin's foundation has been playing the long game. They're not running some offshore no KYC circus. They've got registered entities, US-based teams, real partnerships with research institutions. This thing's legit. And now it's clear, the SEC doesn't just see a crypto token, they see an American innovation in decentralized storage. a protocol that could actually strengthen the US data infrastructure in a world where AI, cloud, and sovereignty are colliding. That's why people are sleeping on it, because once something moves from risky crypto to strategic tech, the whole conversation changes. Suddenly, regulation isn't a threat, it's a validation. Filecoin's narrative fits perfectly into the new US playbook: secure data, transparent systems, decentralized ownership, and public verifiability. It's the anti-China cloud, the anti-monopoly, and regulators love that stuff right now, especially when AI is involved. You think the US government wants every AI company relying on centralized servers from Amazon and Google? Nah, they've seen how that story ends. Data gets siloed, controlled, and eventually weaponized. But Filecoin flips that. It decentralizes it. It gives AI developers and institutions a way to store and process data without a single point of failure. That's not a regulatory nightmare, that's a national advantage. Now, here's where it gets spicy, because the Filecoin Foundation has been actively building bridges with compliance experts, legal advisors, and even international regulators. They're not hiding from the SEC, they're inviting them to the table. That's bold. That's next-level strategy. And if you read between the lines, that tells you everything. Because when a project starts communicating openly with regulators, it's not running scared. It's setting the stage for institutional entry. You want BlackRock to care? You want Fidelity to load up? You want pension funds to allocate? Cool. They don't buy dreams. They buy compliance. And Filecoin might just be one of the first truly decentralized projects to actually earn that green light. And think about what that means for the price. The second the SEC clarifies that Filecoin isn't a security, or even just gives indirect approval through a compliant ETF or custody framework, Wall Street money floods in. The same suits who mocked crypto in 2021 will be lining up to buy the decentralized data layer for AI, and they'll call it innovation. Meanwhile, retail investors will be sitting there like, wait, didn't we panic sell this last year when the SEC made a tweet? Yeah, bro, that's how they play the game. Fear first, accumulation second. And if you've been watching quietly, you can see it already. The same on-chain wallets that went silent for months, they're waking up again. OTC desks have started reporting quiet fill purchases from institutional clients. That's Wall Street code for they're loading the boat before the press release. But here's where it gets emotional, because for years, every time regulation showed up, the crypto community went into survival mode. We were always fighting, always hiding, always waiting for the next crackdown. But now, it's different. Filecoin's not fighting for survival, it's earning its seat at the table. This isn't about dodging the system, it's about becoming the infrastructure this system needs to survive. And that's what gives this story real power. Because for once, regulation might not kill the dream, it might actually make it unstoppable. Now don't get me wrong, there's still risk. The SEC could easily overreach, try to classify Filecoin under outdated securities frameworks, or drag its feet on clear guidance. But the vibe right now, it's changing. There's dialogue, not war. And that's huge. Remember how the Bitcoin ETF started? Years of rejection, delay, confusion, and then suddenly, boom, approval. And the entire market flipped bullish overnight. That's exactly the kind of setup we're seeing here. When the dust settles, Filecoin could become the first decentralized AI data platform that's fully compliant, US recognized, and institutionally backed. That's not just bullish, that's historic. So yeah, let the headline scream, SEC investigation, let Twitter panic, because behind those scary words, the foundation's doing the real work, paperwork, partnerships, and quiet alignment with the same system that once tried to ignore them. And you already know how that story ends. Regulation kills the weak, but legitimizes the strong. Filecoin is about to prove it belongs in the second category. But here's where things go from political to explosive. Because once regulation clears the runway, the next thing waiting to take off is pure technology. And this next chapter, the upcoming upgrades, could flip everything we thought we knew about Filecoin's limits. So don't blink. Because if you thought regulation was the end of the story, nah bro, that's just the setup. What's coming next? That's the detonation point. Want to move on to Outline 4, the tech upgrade that changes everything next? That's where the script goes full cinematic, the ETH 2.0 moment for Filecoin.
Fam, I swear, people are sleeping on this one.
Filecoin's latest upgrades just flipped the script completely. This ain't the same FIL you saw in 2021, man. This is a whole new beast. AI ready, faster, cheaper, and built for the next era of the internet. You know how Ethereum had its 2.0 moment? Filecoin just hit that exact phase, but with something even crazier. Real utility that AI and enterprise tech actually need. Let's break this down, because what's happening right now isn't hype, it's evolution. The Filecoin virtual machine, the FVM, just went from being a nerdy buzzword to the backbone of something huge. Think of it like Ethereum smart contracts, but for data. With the FVM, developers can literally program data storage, retrieval, and compute operations like code. That means AI models, apps, and DePIN projects can now live directly on Filecoin instead of just using it as a backup drive. And that's where it gets wild. This whole compute over data thing, it's not just a catchy phrase, it's the core of what's coming next. Normally, to train an AI, you have to move massive amounts of data from storage to a separate compute layer. That's slow, expensive, and centralized. But Filecoin just flipped that. Instead of moving the data to the compute, it's bringing the compute to the data. That's like skipping the middleman in a trillion-dollar industry. And bro, that's exactly why AI developers are watching. They need decentralized, scalable data infrastructure that doesn't choke on costs or privacy issues. AWS and Google Cloud can't keep up forever. They're centralized, pricey, and politically sensitive. Filecoin just offered them a faster, cheaper, censorship-proof alternative. And that's not even the craziest part. Because now, with these upgrades, the retrieval markets, basically how fast you can access stored data, have gotten way faster. Think milliseconds, not minutes. Combine that with FVM's new token utility, and you've got a monster brewing. Every interaction, every computation, retrieval, or AI model access now feeds FIL's economy. That's not passive storage anymore, that's active demand. And when demand starts scaling faster than supply, well, you already know what happens next. Prices don't ask for permission, they launch. Here's where it gets interesting. This upgrade puts Filecoin in the same lane Ethereum was in during its transition to proof of stake. Early, misunderstood, but absolutely necessary for the next generation of Web3 apps. Remember how people used to laugh at ETH gas fees in 2018? It's too expensive, it's too slow, and then boom. ETH 2.0, roll-ups, and L2s came in, and suddenly everyone realized what was being built was the infrastructure for billions. That's exactly what's happening here. Filecoin's entering its Ethereum 2.0 moment, a massive upgrade cycle where the market hasn't priced in the future yet. You think whales don't see that? Come on, these guys aren't trading on hype, they're trading on infrastructure shifts. Look deeper and you'll see it. New Layer 2 solutions are forming on top of Filecoin right now. Not meme projects, not pump and dump junk, real enterprise-grade data layers designed for scalability. There's even talk of major DePIN and AI companies integrating Filecoin as their default decentralized storage backbone. That's literally the moment ETH had when DeFi protocols started locking ETH for liquidity. Once data projects start locking file for compute and retrieval, the tokenomics go from simple to deflationary rocket fuel. And think about the timing, bro. AI is exploding. ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, autonomous agents, all of them run on data. The global AI data demand curve is vertical. Filecoin is sitting right in that lane saying, yo, we got decentralized, affordable, permissionless storage. Come get it. That's what the market hasn't caught on to yet. Everyone's still watching Bitcoin and Ethereum like they're the only players that matter, while Filecoin's out here quietly building the rails for the data economy of AI. And here's the emotional part. This isn't just a crypto upgrade. This is the comeback arc. Filecoin got written off by a lot of people in 2021. Too slow, too boring, too complicated. But that's the thing. The projects that look boring during the bear market are the ones that explode when real use cases show up. Filecoin went quiet because it was working. It wasn't trying to trend, it was trying to evolve. And now, it's evolved. It's AI compatible, enterprise ready, and economically sound. That's what smart money looks for before a cycle. That's why this whole quiet phase feels like deja vu. The same vibe before Ethereum blew up, before Solana went parabolic, before the institutions showed up pretending they just discovered Web3. You think Wall Street's ignoring this? Nah, man, they're studying it quietly. You don't build infrastructure like this for retail traders. You build it for the next internet cycle. The whales see that. And guess what? They're not just watching from the sidelines. OTC activity around Filecoin has been rising again. Big wallets, we're talking institutional grade sizes, are waking up. You can track it on-chain. They're accumulating quietly, while everyone else is still sleeping. That's always the telltale sign before a breakout. The moment the tech aligns with adoption, the whales start loading up, and that's happening right now. And this is where you've got to think like them. They're not chasing hype, they're front-running inevitability. The FEM made Filecoin programmable. The compute over data model made it essential for AI. And the next phase, token utility, enterprise adoption, and data liquidity, that's where the serious money starts multiplying. But hold up, because while this tech upgrade is rewriting Filecoin's destiny, something even bigger is brewing under the surface. You might think the whales are just holding, but nah, what they're doing with that file, the quiet building, the staking, the ecosystem plays, that's where the real alpha is hiding. And if you thought this tech level up was the peak, you're not ready for what comes next, because the whales are doubling down behind the scenes, and the patterns they're leaving on-chain are unlike anything we've seen before. Ready for that next part? That's what we dive into the silent whale accumulation that's setting up the next massive move. And trust me, you'll never look at Filecoin charts the same way again.
Real talk, fam. On-chain data doesn't lie. And right now, it's screaming something insane about Filecoin. Whales aren't just holding, they're stacking FIL like it's 2020 all over again. Yeah, you remember that pre-bull run vibe? The calm before Ethereum and Bitcoin went nuclear? That's exactly the energy we're seeing right now. And if you're sleeping on this, you're leaving money on the table. Let's dive into the receipts. First, the on-chain metrics are straight up telling a story. Large wallets, the kind only institutions or billion-dollar funds control, are quietly scooping up FIL. Not in flashy trades, not in 100 token bursts. We're talking millions being moved off exchanges and into cold storage. That's textbook accumulation behavior. And when whales act like this, they're usually betting on a massive upside. They're not here for day trading hype. Next, check the exchange outflows. FIL leaving exchanges has been spiking. That's a classic sign that coins are moving into staking, long-term custody, or private storage deals. In other words, these whales are taking FIL off the market so you can't touch it. Limited supply plus increasing demand, you already know the math. And this isn't retail panic selling. This is professional-grade positioning. Meanwhile, new storage providers are entering the ecosystem at scale. That's right, it's not just whales hoarding FIL, it's an entire infrastructure network expanding quietly. More miners, more storage capacity, more compute over data nodes being set up. This signals one thing: adoption. Real adoption. Not just hype tweets or influencer-driven FOMO. The network is growing, and with growth comes utility, and with utility comes price appreciation. Here's where it gets wild. If you compare the patterns to the pre-ETH bull run in 2020, the resemblance is uncanny. Before ETH's meteoric rise, smart money was quietly accumulating, exchanges were seeing huge outflows, and new protocol activity was ramping up in the shadows. History doesn't repeat exactly, but it rhymes, and the rhyme here is telling us Filecoin could be setting up for a similar explosive run. But hold up, the whales ain't buying just for fun. They've got a target in mind, and it sounds insane until you actually break down the math. Between the network upgrades, the AI-ready infrastructure, and the institutional interest, the market cap potential is literally exponential. Early movers in these cycles don't just catch small pumps, they catch generational wealth opportunities. That's why you see the whales moving stealthily, setting up positions before the news goes mainstream. And let me hit you with the FOMO factor. Retail is mostly sleeping. Social media chatter is low. Forums are debating whether Filecoin is done for or too niche. Meanwhile, the smart money is loading silently. That gap between perception and reality, That's the vacuum that fuels explosive moves. It's like watching everyone ignore a rocket about to launch. You either get on early or you miss the ride entirely. Here's another angle. Staking incentives are stronger than ever. File locked-in staking programs isn't just sitting there. It's generating yield, creating scarcity, and forcing those who want exposure to buy from the limited market. Scarcity plus institutional accumulation equals a perfect storm. And don't forget the AI partnerships and enterprise adoption we discussed earlier. All of these add layers of fundamental demand that retail hasn't fully priced in. And the emotional angle, bro, it's insane. Seeing whales move like this is like a masterclass in market psychology. They're teaching us patience, positioning, and stealth accumulation all at once. While everyone else panics over short-term price swings, they're quietly orchestrating a setup for the next massive breakout. Think of it this way. You're watching the shadows while the headline news focuses on minor dips. That's how the early bulls make serious money, by reading the subtle cues that signal the big moves. Filecoin is literally screaming these cues right now. So yeah, the whales are stacking FIL. They're exiting exchanges, new storage providers are entering, network upgrades are live, AI adoption is accelerating, and if history is any guide, all these signals together set the stage for a parabolic run. And here's the suspense hook for the next part, because while the whales are doing their thing behind the scenes, there's even a bigger catalyst waiting to hit. A market-moving upgrade, some hidden partnerships, and institutional maneuvers that could blow the doors off. That's the part where Filecoin goes from hidden gem to headline maker, and you don't want to blink when that happens. Ready to dive into the next level? Let's talk about Outline 6, the price target that looks insane until you see the math, and break down the numbers, timelines, and strategies behind the FIL 100X setup.
Yo, let's keep it 100. You ever notice how some plays in crypto feel like they're straight out of a Wall Street handbook, but retail has no idea what's going on? That's Filecoin right now. This ain't just a coin sitting on a chart. This is a full-blown convergence of AI adoption, whale accumulation, tech upgrades, regulation, and perfect timing. And fam, let me tell you, 99% of the crowd hasn't even caught a hint of it. First off, let's talk tech. Filecoin's been quietly evolving while everyone else chases the next meme coin. Compute over data? Check. FVM smart contract integration? Check. Enterprise-ready infrastructure? Check. This isn't just storage anymore, this is the backbone for AI, DePIN, NFTs, and enterprise data solutions. And here's the kicker, when infrastructure hits this level of utility, retail is usually years behind the adoption curve. That's where the serious money comes in, and that's why the whales are quietly front-running the cycle. Speaking of whales, let's dive into the institutional flow. Big wallets, OTC transactions, and exchange outflows tell the real story. While everyone else is scrolling Twitter and arguing about price swings, smart money is stacking FIL like it's the prelude to a 2020-level bull run. They're not just buying, they're strategically positioning, moving FIL off exchanges, staking, and locking tokens into the ecosystem. And that's critical because when supply tightens while demand ramps up, the stage is literally set for explosive upside. Now layer in AI. Every major AI company is hungry for data, and Filecoin isn't just feeding them, it's giving them the infrastructure they need to scale without centralized bottlenecks. AWS and Google Cloud can't compete with this decentralized speed, privacy, and cost structure. Once AI projects start locking FIL for compute and retrieval, we're talking organic, real-world demand that drives tokenomics in ways retail doesn't yet understand. Then there's regulation, the SEC and US government angle. Normally, regulation scares retail into selling, but in Filecoin's case, it's actually a credibility boost. The Filecoin Foundation is compliant. They're engaging with US institutions, and the national security angle for decentralized data justifies major adoption. Regulation isn't a roadblock here, it's the green light for serious institutional money to flow in. Timing is everything. When tech, whales, AI adoption, and regulation align, that's when markets move hard. Look at history. Pre-ETH 2020 bull run, Solana's early infrastructure build, Bitcoin halving cycles. The setup feels eerily similar.
Early adopters who see this pattern have a massive edge, and that's why I'm telling you, this isn't just hype, it's strategic inevitability. Here's the roadmap to 100x, realistically. Phase 1 is accumulation. We're already in it, with whales stacking Filecoin quietly. Phase 2 is adoption, enterprise and AI projects integrating Filecoin. Phase 3 is public recognition. Media starts noticing, retail FOMO kicks in, and price begins to skyrocket. Combine that with the limited circulating supply due to staking, and the math starts to look insane. By the end of the cycle, early entrants could see multiples that feel impossible if you don't understand the fundamentals. But don't just chase numbers. Think strategically. Buying now? Sure. Staking? Absolutely. Participating in network upgrades? That's where the edge comes in. Filecoin is giving investors multiple ways to position ahead of the wave. The key is to be early and patient, not reactive. Retail panic isn't the friend here. Timing, insight, and positioning are. And let's get emotional for a second. Picture the scene. The market is quiet, whales are loading, AI is integrating, and regulations are solidifying legitimacy. Most people are scrolling their feeds thinking Filecoin is boring. Meanwhile, the infrastructure is being built under their noses, and the next parabolic move is already being structured. That feeling, that quiet before the storm, is what separates retail from the next wave of crypto millionaires. Now here's the suspense hook for the grand finale, the don't say nobody told you moment. If you're paying attention, you already know the next Filecoin explosion isn't just about price. It's about ecosystem dominance, AI integration, whale psychology, and regulatory validation converging at once. Early investors who front-run this aren't gambling. They're executing a play that's been quietly set up over years. And when the public finally catches on, the FOMO will be off the charts. So, if you want me to break down the next Filecoin cycle with actual whale wallet tracking, AI partnerships, and strategic positioning, drop a comment. I'm talking a full deep dive into everything, and trust me, you don't want to miss the next phase. Filecoin isn't just a coin, it's the silent setup for the next 100x play Wall Street doesn't want you to see. The storm is building, whales are loading, AI is integrating, regulation is greenlit, and you're either watching from the sidelines or you're preparing for the ride of a lifetime. Don't say nobody told you, because the next chapter of Filecoin is about to hit and it's going to make history.